Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, this is another lecture in the series of the development of the nervous system, and in this lecture we will discuss the diencephalon, which develops from the median portion of the prosencephalon, give rise to epithalamus, thalamus, subthalamus and hypothalamus. And in addition to these four swellings, it also gives rise to two lateral outgrowths which are called the optic vesicles. This is the rostral portion of the prosencephalon, which is called the telencephalon, and this is the caudal portion of the mesencephalon, which is called the diencephalon. From this region, two lateral outgrowths develops. These are the two lateral outgrowths, and for these two lateral outgrowths are called the optic vesicles. The optic vesicles later on give rise to the retina, ciliary body, iris and the optic nerve. So these are the derivatives of the diencephalon. In addition to these two lateral outgrowths, the prosencephalon from its telencephalon region give rise to two lateral outgrowths which later on forms the cerebral hemisphere. These are the two lateral outgrowths from the prosencephalon which give rise to the cerebral hemispheres with their cavity known as the lateral ventricles. Dear students, as you know from the development of the mesencephalon and the rhombencephalon that the sulcus limitus was present in the lateral wall of the developing neural tube, which divides the lateral wall into two, the neuroblast present in the lateral wall into two masses, the alar plates and the basal plates. But that sulcus limitans does not extend beyond the midbrain region, so that the reason that the swelling which is produced due to the formation of the neuroblasts and those neuroblasts accumulating in the intermediate layer of the lateral walls give rise to only a single mass of the neuroblasts, which are called the alar plates. So single mass of the neuroblast producing in the diencephalon region of the neural tube, they produce only a single mass which is called the alar plates. And these alar plates, when due to more and more accumulation of the neuroblasts get large, they project into the cavity of the third ventricle and reducing into a mere slit-like gap. And that slit-like gap between the two lateral walls of the developing diencephalon is called the third ventricle. So the neural canal in the region of the diencephalon forms a third ventricle. In addition to that, floor is also almost deficient. So the wall of the diencephalon contains the lateral walls and the ependymal roof consisting of a single layer of the cells and almost absent floor. That initial single swelling with later on, as the development goes on, that swelling is divided into three swellings, and that three swellings in the lateral walls are called epithalamus, thalamus and the hypothalamus. And these three swellings are separated from one another by two sulci present between them. The epithalamus is separated from the thalamus by the epithalamic sulcus. That is the epithalamic sulcus. And in this diagram, here this is the epithalamic sulcus, and dorsal to that is present the epithalamus, and ventral to that is present the large swelling with the name of the thalamus, and that is the thalamus. And the thalamus is separated from the more ventrally lying another swelling that is called the hypothalamus by the hypothalamus sulcus, and that is the hypothalamic sulcus. Thalamus, hypothalamus, and in between is the hypothalamic sulcus. And here in this diagram, this is the hypothalamic sulcus present between the thalamus and the hypothalamus. Dear students, now we will discuss in detail the derivatives from the different swellings which are produced in the lateral wall of the developing diencephalon. First of all, the epithalamus, which is also called the epiphysis, it gives rise to pineal body. Pineal body initially is an epithelial thickening, but as the development goes, it evaginates and form a solid swelling which is called the pineal body. That is the pineal body. And that pineal body is present on the roof of the mesencephalon. It serves as a channel through which the light and darkness affect the endocrine and the behavioral rhythms. And in adults, the calcium is frequently deposited in the epiphysis and then serve as a landmark on the radiographs of the skull. The other derivatives of the epithalamus are the habenular nuclei and the habenular and the posterior commissures, which are present in the walls of the pineal recess. That is the habenular commissure in the upper part of the pineal recess, and in the lower wall is present the posterior commissures. So these are the two commissures which are present in the walls of the pineal recess, which is present in the stalk of the pineal gland. Next is the thalamus. Thalamus gives rise to the various thalamic nuclei and the medial and the lateral geniculate bodies. And in 70% of the individuals, that swelling grows too much into the neural canal of the developing diencephalon that the one thalamic nuclei present on one lateral wall get adhered to the thalamic swelling on the opposite wall, and that produce a interthalamic adhesions which is comprising of the gray matter. In almost 70 to 80% this is present, and in 20% they are not get adhered to one another, rather some produce some swelling on the surface of the thalamus. Next swelling is the subthalamus. Actually, that subthalamus does not produce swelling on the lateral wall of the developing diencephalon, but it is one of the derivatives of the walls of the diencephalon, and it gives rise to this subthalamic nucleus, zona increta, lenticular and the thalamic fasciculi, and these two fasciculi collectively called the fields of Forel. Then is the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus gives rise to various hypothalamic nuclei mammillary bodies, and the neurohypophysis, which is a part of the hypophysis cerebri. The two diverticuli, which lateral diverticuli, which arises from the developing diencephalon, they are called the optic vesicles, and later on they will form the retina, iris, ciliary body, and optic nerve. This is the hypophysis cerebri, and its neurohypophysis develops from the hypothalamus, and this is the swelling which is called the mammillary bodies. These are present in the floor of the third ventricle. So hypothalamus also forms somewhat from a portion of the floor which is present in the lateral wall, while the subthalamus and the hypothalamus, they are purely derivatives of the lateral wall of the developing diencephalon. The epithalamus develops from the lateral wall as well as the floor of the roof plate of the developing diencephalon. So the epithalamus develops from two structures like the hypothalamus, which also develops from the lateral wall as well as the floor, and that epithalamus develops from the lateral wall as well. Dear students, the roof plate of the diencephalon consists of a single layer of the ependymal cells, and those ependymal cells are covered by the vascular mesenchyme. Actually pia matter, then it is covered by the vascular pia matter, and that together they will form the tila choroidea of the third ventricle, and that tila choroidea, when invaginates into the cavity, this is the single layer of the ependymal cells which form the roof plate of the third ventricle, and when it is covered by the vascular mesenchyme, this is called tila choroidea, and then invaginates into the cavity of the third ventricle to form the choroid plexus of the third ventricle. And here in this diagram you can see this is the roof of the third ventricle, and with the choroid plexus which is hanging down from the roof into the cavity of the third ventricle. This concludes the development of the diencephalon. Inshallah, in the next lecture. Thank you so much.